Hey, doctor.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to all our listeners and viewers. I welcome you all to another exciting and educating edition of the Health and Fitness Show. I'm your host Fahad Matin for today's show, and I hope and pray that all of us are fit and healthy by the grace of Almighty Allah. I do pray that we all had a nice and positive week so far and looking forward for a nice and relaxing weekend. This program is broadcasting from the studios of Inspire FM, from the platforms of Inspire FM today on 28th of January 2021, and casting its positive vibes to all our lovely people in Luton and all the surrounding areas of Luton, like Dunstable, Harpenden, Bedford, and definitely our positive airways are always our airwaves are reaching to all our listeners and viewers who are listening for us from the other platform, which is the online platforms of Inspire FM, like Inspire FM web app, a mobile app, website, as well as the social media platforms which Inspire FM has, which is Inspire FM Facebook page and YouTube channel. So good evening to all of you. Now, life, as we know, is getting harder day by day. The light on the end of the tunnel is getting a bit more lighter and bit more further. In fact, things which we thought that last year, as soon as the year finish, it will be gone, and we will start living our life in a new way. Yes, we are living our life in a new way, but it's not the same as we thought we will be enjoying a life. So life, as we know, is slightly different in some way, shape, or form, and it's getting difficult. More and more people are getting frustrated because they're still isolated inside their houses. Homeschooling. I have received informations and contacts from different parents who are still struggling with their homeschoolings and getting frustrated in their daily lives. Weather sometimes doesn't help. Although a day of snow did help in some way, it did give brightness to our lives. But hey ho, it is not it is, and that's one of the reason. Before starting a show tonight, I thought I better start a show with a very powerful quote, and I do not know who has those say those words. But it was something which I have seen in passing, and it is very powerful in a sense that when I read it, I thought, that is something really good. And the quote goes something like that: that it is this is not the year to demand what we could have, or this is the year where we should be thankful of what we do have. And it is very powerful that sometimes we, in order to keep our frustration down, or sometimes we do get carried out with our frustration, we forgot to enjoy what little things we have. And sometimes these little things do help a lot to go a further mile in many different ways, shape, or form. So our topic today is something in the same line, and definitely when we take towards our show tonight, we will definitely talk a bit more in depth regarding this particular section and the topic. So without further ado, the topic for today is having a meaningful life during lockdown. Yes, you have heard me correctly. Today we are talking about having a meaningful life in the lockdown, and definitely I'm not the one who will be talking about this topic. I'm a bit glad and delighted to be joined by two of my really good and very good and friends of mine, and they are the social care guest of mine, and they are Claire Clopston and Rigita. Uh, uh, Ahmetaj, and I always mispronounce the name from Meaningful Education. And I was joined. I'm so far. I'm just joined by Rogita, which I always call Rivi because I always mispronounce her name. Hello, Rivi.
Hello, hi, it's Regatta. Come on, Fahad.
Regatta.
Let's
See,
go.
that's one of the reason I call you from your nickname,
I love it.
Regatta.
You're the only one who calls me that. But by the way, Farhad, Claire says that she's waiting to be let in by the host.
Oh, I have not. I'm not seeing her on the request, so I'm a bit confused. As in, I'll send her a request again because, uh, uh, to be honest, oh yes, now I can see her.
Oh, you can see her now. Okay.
Yes, yeah. I was, to be honest, when I started the show, I was almost having a panic attack in the sense that where my two lovely friends are, and it was not easy to be hanged around like that. But hey, ho, it is what it is. So welcome to both of you, and good evening, and welcome to our show tonight. And before we move on, it's one of our long-standing tradition of the show is to ask a guest to introduce themselves with their full name because I'm really bad in pronouncing the names properly. So, can I ask you both to give a quick introduction about yourself and your experience in regards to our show topic of the show tonight? Because you are a lovely champions, social care champions, I must say, in our community, and a beacon of hope in many different ways, shape, or form. So let's start with you, Claire.
Thank you so much for inviting us back onto your show. And it's always such a delight to come onto your show. We are big fans of the Health and Fitness Show. So thank you so much for having us, firstly. My name is Clare Copleston, and I'm a director at Meaningful Education, which is a community interest company. And we specialise in mental health support and training and community education. And we also do lots of work in championing dignity within kind of healthcare, social care, and also bringing dignity matters into the forefront of people's minds within the community. A little bit about my background is I have spent many years working within health and social care as a carer, as an activities coordinator, within managerial positions, and I specialised in mental health, and I also have worked across specialising in dementia care. So that's a little bit about myself, and I'll pass over to you, Roberta.
Thank you, Claire. And my name's Regatta Ahmetaj. Go on, Farhad, learn.
Regatta.
Also from Meaningful Education. And my background has really dramatically changed in the last 5 years. But before going into Meaningful Education, I actually I came from a background of marketing and advertising. And a lot of my work was actually in social care towards that and beside that, because I worked as an interpreter, and that took me everywhere, you name it, whether it's social care, mental health care, in prisons, youth offending, I've been all around. But yeah, that's a bit about my background as well.
Prison from the other side, not the
Yeah.
inmate side.
I'm sure Bed's police would know. But yeah,
Indeed, indeed. Thank you so much for coming to our show tonight. And on that note, let me invite our listeners. So, listeners, so if you have any questions or queries regarding our topic tonight, please get in touch with us by sending us your thoughts, or if you have any experience to share with us, please do get in touch with us by sending your messages via text message or WhatsApp on 07779481822. I repeat, 07779481822. Or you can get in touch with us by sending a message from Facebook Live link or YouTube Live link. So all you have to do is just go to Inspire FM Facebook page, click the live link and send the message from there, because we do like to hear from you, your experience, your thoughts, and how things are working for you, especially having a meaningful life during lockdown. Because lockdown, as I started my show with the same thing, that I have come across many parents who have struggling in their livelihood, in because of lots of job, lots of responsibility, working from home, having difficulty juggling between having a parenting life for kids, or having a work life for work basis, teaching their children's from home, homeschooling. I've seen an email from a principal of a school asking the parents uh, not to be very get confused in terms of so many emails or messages coming from the schools to them, asking their help, because they are also offering their help and support to support the kids, the parents, as well as the general community, because there are many parents who do not have necessary support to self or to homeschool kids. For example, iPads, computers, or even internet connections. Not many people are so blessed with all those things, and I do understand and imagine that. But at the same time, we have to be very dignified and very helpful. So that's where I normally start my section. And when I think about it, I realize that something like this was mentioned by two of my very good friends in their very small venture a while back. And and before I start asking them about that venture, let me ask them how their time during the pandemic. So both Claire and Riri Regatta, I have to bite my tongue in order
love,
to say your
love,
name
love
properly.
the effort.
How was your life during this pandemic, other than me helping you out of smiling?
Well, we did one thing that we both
Just
got a
one.
pet. We did one thing similar out of everything. We got a pet, or had, during lockdown.
You got a
Um,
pet named Fahad. Ouch. Ouch.
we each got a pet. Forehead on my forehead. If you want to be specific. And honestly, it was so unplanned, in the sense of we didn't actually sit there and plan it together. Like, let's get a pet, for example. But we did get a pet, not shared, but Claire got a dog and I got a cat. And apart
And none of
from
their
that,
names are Fahad.
no,
Good.
unfortunately, for
That's very good. That's a relief. That's really a relief. In many different ways, it's a relief.
out of everything, I thought I'd start on that positive, because I feel like everything that's happened in lockdown has almost been very negative. And within our household as well, I'm sure Claire could tell you too, it hasn't been the easiest for any of us, whether that's being out of work, whether someone's tested positive for COVID, and then all being locked together for a really long time sometimes can impact on your mental health, not being able to leave and so on. So I thought I'd start positively. And one thing we did in lockdown was actually get a pet to make our lives a little bit easier at home. Apart from that, it's been very difficult in so many ways. But yeah, pet
Mhm.
therapy. I'm going to start on that first.
Claire?
I would say it's been a roller coaster for many of us, and I think the seasons play a big part in that as well. So, for instance, when we first went into lockdown, it was we was coming into like the spring months, and the weather was changing, and being on lockdown, the first lockdown, didn't seem quite as bad, because it was kind of like we was getting a bit of a break by being at home, and with the summer months coming up, it was really nice to be home, enjoy the good weather, and things like that. And during that time, myself and Roberta, we did many daily online live tutorials and live videos where we was reaching out and just speaking to people about how they can, focus on doing different things in their day to day that can, help and enable them to, look after their mental health and their physical health. And I think, as we started to come out of those summer periods, you then have, those kind of that Christmas period coming up, which, we we had that kind of focus, and I do think that after Christmas, we want to get out of that kind of hibernation period, and we want to start to get back to our kind of routines and plan those goals for the new year, and be ready and motivated. And because we haven't had that period, I think people are finding that really difficult, more so than ever, during this lockdown. And it's challenging. It is really challenging, and we've got multiple situations going on in people's homes. Um, if we look at the impact of on mental health, for instance, the isolation that people are going through, or there's a big increase in um, things like domestic abuse, and then there's our older generations who are very lonely if they live by themselves. So you've got parents, as you said, Farhad, that are trying to juggle that kind of work life and that, homeschooling environment. And that is so stressful. When you're trying to do a full-time job from home and look after children and homeschool, like, it's so challenging, and we can feel like we're just going to get to breaking point. So there's, we've got to try and find that, that balance, that we can make things work, but we've also got to remember that we have got to look after our well-being physically and mentally during this time.
Indeed. And on that note, I must say that people sometimes do not realize what they do have. Yes, they have lost a lot. They have lost a tremendous amount of things. Their livelihoods, their loved ones, the people who they used to have the regular contact with, the people, the social life, the social aspects of their life, the friends and the families, and all the necessary things which we do need to have a healthy life in many different ways.
Hmm.
But one thing which we do not realize is what we do have. For example, if you are breathing properly, that is a blessing. Not many people have that blessing, especially nowadays. People who think that COVID is a myth, coronavirus is a myth. Well, have a look. If you are blessed enough that you do not get infected, or if you are an asymptomatic patient, that does not mean that this thing doesn't exist. So I will always challenge those people that yes, do, if you are blessed, don't abuse your blessing, because we never know.
Mm.
And as thing progressing, as I can see things from different vantage point on in life, I have seen, and this is my personal view, is that I have seen people who have an asymptomatic patient, I do not have any severe symptoms of coronavirus, do have a long COVID symptoms later in stage in life for other reasons, many different other reasons. Also, people still who are getting vaccinated, regardless which age they are from, they think that after having vaccines they become immune. No, they're
Yeah.
still unfortunately very vulnerable in many different ways, shape, or form. So, and one thing which I did in the lockdown is to brush up my history, and people who have tried to learn from the past is the best thing you can do for your own mental health. And history tells us that whenever there's a pandemic starts, it lasted minimum of 2 to 3 years.
Mm.
We just passed 1 year, there's another year to go. It's a
Mm.
really long ahead. It's a really long walk ahead, and in this time we need to have a meaningful life. Having a meaningful life is one of the most important thing, and especially in the lockdown period like we are in at the moment, the schools are now closed till first week of March.
Mm.
Why? Because there are outbreaks in children's which is even severe. And that's something which people was suggesting when the government was pushing to keep school open, that this is not the case. Why? And now the evidence showing that it is happening. And and that realize that takes me to the thing which I've read, because I remember you have given me your book, and I had read that book of yours, The Activity Genius, and that was brilliant in that sense. So I like to bring the light back onto you, both of you, regarding that book, because that was a very inspiring book. So tell me about this book so people can understand as well, because it has a very good few things. And that was a book which was just before the lockdown, isn't it, when we released it?
Yes, so we did have like a big marketing plan. We was, ready to do our book tour, and we was ready to get out and meet people and promote the book, and we was really looking forward to it. And then the pandemic hit, so it kind of was a bit of a bad timing in that sense. However, we don't let that dampen us. So what we did was, we've promoted and we've talked about the importance of meaningful daily activities. And I think a lot of the time with the pandemic, it's attached to a lot of negativity. And a lot of us can feel like we have had our freedom taken away from us, a lot of our choices taken away from us. But it is so important to focus on what you're grateful for each day, to look at things that you can find in your day to day that will stimulate your mind mentally, that you can do, that will help and enable you to have a better health with your physical health. And it's about having that sense of purpose, because a lot of us during this pandemic, we can feel like we lose our motivation and we lose that sense of purpose because we're not getting up and we're not having our normal routines. So what is our sense of purpose? So it's really about looking at what are our interests, our likes, our hobbies, what gives us that sense of purpose. It's about meeting our core needs and having that that focus on in your day to day. And these are the sorts of things that we need to actively think about, and then we need to put a plan into place so that we know what we like to do, what we can do, and what our choices are while we are in lockdown. And it's about making sure that we look after our well-being physically and mentally.
Hmm. Hmm. And definitely it's really hard to do certain things, especially when you are locked down inside your home. So let me come back on to the book which you just mentioned and you showed as well. What inspired you guys to go to something like that? And then I need to link it with our lives, because you just literally push it, those areas which can easily be adopted into our daily life nowadays, especially in the lockdown.
Hmm. Roberta, do you want to start with that?
Yeah. I think we've been in that sort of writing space for a while now. I think it's been a good few years that we've talked about it and planned around it. And before lockdown, we actually decided. I came back because I was away, and we decided to write it within that month. People might think we were crazy, but we've actually had years and years of worth of material already there and experiences that we thought it's the right time before moving on and doing something bigger with ourselves. Because obviously we aim higher and higher each year, every 6 months even, and we decided to write that. But there's such a good mix in there with both me and Claire. Coming from an activities background for Claire, Claire looks at it in a much more planned and productive way, if that makes sense, where she takes from experience and tells you exactly what you can do activity wise. And then we both delve into the core needs and look at that from a personal experience and offer our advice around what you could do that would make your life much better in way of activities that's for your mental health and for your physical health. And I thoroughly enjoyed writing it. I learned so much about myself in the process. But absolutely, looking at the core needs during that time opened my eyes, going back on that, how important that is and what we could do for ourselves in the long run. Because sometimes where we have everything set up for us, like the gym, for example, and now it's not available from I don't know until what time, it's really depressing for some people. So when we've highlighted the core needs, we've also looked at activities that would help both physical and mental health needs.
I must say, I'll stop you there, unfortunately, because wow, the time has passed really, really quickly. We just have few seconds remaining before end of this half of the show. So when we come back from our topic, when we come back from a break, we will talk a bit more about how to have a meaningful life during a lockdown, and definitely we want to discuss about physical and mental health, about how we can actively involve into those areas. So stay tuned. We will be back after these very short messages.
Assalamu alaikum. In Luton and its surrounding areas, it is now time for Salat al-Isha.
लुटन और इसके मज़ाफ़ात में नमाज इशा का वक्त हुआ चाहता है.
This azan has been sponsored by Ideal Properties. Contact us on 01582 721110 or log on to www.idealpropertiesltd.co.uk.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعث مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
Would you like to sponsor the Azan? If so, give us a call on 01582 481 810 or email us on info@inspirefm.org.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Any health advice given, whether general, diet, physical, or spiritual, is general only and must be verified by your doctor. If you need medical advice, please consult a doctor.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all our listeners and viewers. I welcome you all to another exciting and educating edition of the Health and Fitness Show. I'm your host Fahad Matin for today's show, and I hope and pray that all of us are fit and healthy by the grace of Almighty Allah. We are talking about having a meaningful lockdown with our two specialist social care guests, Claire and Rigerta from Meaningful Education. And definitely, we had very, very lovely uh, and positive communication so far. So, before we jumped into that, and before I introduced them back into those conversation, because we were having a very, very deep thoughted conversation, but I do like to involve our listeners as well. By the way, this program is broadcasting live today on 28th of January 2021 from the platforms of Inspire FM, and for our lovely for Inspire FM for our lovely people in Luton and surrounding areas of Luton, like Dunstable, Harpin, and Bedford, and people and all our listeners who are listening us from the online platforms of Inspire FM, like mobile app, Inspire FM app, website, or social media platform like Facebook and YouTube. And I do like to involve our listeners as well, because it is a meaningful, it is to have a meaningful lockdown, a meaningful life during the lockdown. People in this day and age are having a difficulty, a mountain of difficulties for many different reasons, either personal responsibility, mental health, preparing for their future, what is lying ahead, their own health, their lovely health, their people who their loved ones' health, people who just pass away, so fear of their death. So all those kind of things are there, and it is affecting our life in many different ways. So if you have any personal experience, if you have a loss of a loved one or anything else, please do get in touch with us by sending us your messages on 07779 481822, either by text message or WhatsApp on 07779 481822, or send us the messages or via social media platform like Inspire FM or Inspire FM's Facebook page live or YouTube live link. So let's get back to our show tonight, and let's go back to our two lovely guests, two very good friends of mine, Claire and Rigerta. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. I thought because I have not pronounced your name, you were literally not speaking to me. And the good thing is you have not named your pet with my name, which is even better, which is really good. But anyhow, before we went on break, we were talking about something very, very important. But one more important thing which people do not realize nowadays is, especially with the lockdown in place, it is having a very drastic effect on their personal, mental, and physical health. People who get stressed end up stress eating, having stress eating days, and they're putting up weight. People who are not eating enough, losing weight. People who are getting frustrated or stressed or sad because they have had bad news from their loved ones or within their family. So those kind of things does affect us a lot. So how important the activities when supporting others to look after their mental and physical health are?
Activities are so important, and actually it's just about being a little bit inventive and a little bit creative with the environment that you actually live in. For instance, a prime example is I had to look after my physical health more so um, kind of last year in the middle of the pandemic because of physical health problems that I was having, and that meant that I needed to increase my physical activity. So I'm not one of those people that love to go to the gym. I'm sorry, the gym is amazing for multiple people who love the gym. However, um, gyms were closed, and so what do we do, and how do we look after our physical health if we need to be more active? So I made little small changes in my day to day that were actually having good benefits to my physical health. An example of that is every time I walked past my hallway, I made a point of walking up and down my stairs 5 times, and then I would carry on with whatever I was doing. And the amount of times I realized that I actually walked past my stairs, and when I first started this, I was so out of breath because, like you said, many of us at home, we're enjoying the beginning of the pandemic, a little bit, some of us, and we are overindulging in in our food and things like that, so we do pile on a few of the pounds, unless you were one of those individuals who was super amazing, following Joe Wicks every morning, doing your morning exercises. So it's small things like that, utilizing the things that we have in our home. I was up and down those stairs 5 times every time I walk past it. Do that for 10, 15 times a day. That's actually quite strenuous. YouTube, fantastic resource. There's lots of different things on there that you can access and utilize, from fitness to move it or lose it classes. If you don't know or you haven't heard of move it or lose it, I strongly suggest check it out. It's so good. So these are chair-based exercises, and they're very, very simple, low kind of impact to start off with. It's about just easing you into general exercise, and then you can build it up. Fantastic resources. One thing that was really apparent if you do access social media is the amount of things that people were doing on social media, with, like I said, Joe Wicks, multiple people, Rio Ferdinand, for instance, he was doing morning exercise classes where you could join in with him. There was lots of different things that you could join in with, which were really good in motivating us and engaging us through our social media platforms. But if you don't have access to social media, it really is about just looking at what you enjoy, what are your hobbies. If you can't do things or go to places that you used to be able to go to take part in, activities, how can you be creative and use your environment that you live in? It's just about adapting. If you don't have gym equipment, get a tin of beans out your cupboard. You can quite easily use that as a little weight when you're, doing some exercises and things like that. It's just about being creative with our environment. And we don't have to do like an hour-long worth of exercise. It literally can be short, sharp bursts throughout the day. And not just physical activities, but also thinking about things that are going to stimulate your mind. So things like reading, quizzes, lots of things that are sensory involved. So it could be things like cooking or arts and crafts, gardening, if you've got a garden, or even house plants, doing some indoor house plants and things like that. So there's lots of things you can do at home that will give you focus, meaning to your day, that sense of purpose that you can do, that's going to provide you with that sense of purpose, that focus, and bringing meaning to your day, instead of waking up and thinking, oh, it's another day in lockdown, there's nothing to do, I'm bored. If we start to plan ahead, it really does matter because it gives you that focus. Oh, I can't
Fahad,
hear.
I think you're muted.
Yes, I couldn't hear you either
Ouch!
there.
Ouch! That is classic. That is something happens quite often, and I did not realize it was saying on my screen as well. And yes, you are absolutely right in that sense that once you are doing those exercises, use things like can of beans, and once you use the can of beans for the exercise, you can open them up and start having it on your breakfast, like toast and beans. So hey, you can have two in one kind of things and enjoy. But I'd like to ask what Riri is doing. I heard that she started cooking some delicious and she started doing some wondering cookings and collagen cookings. Is that true?
I've always been a whiz in the kitchen, as they say. But throughout lockdown, I live with my parents, so my mum worked quite a bit, and not being at work, I thought, you know what, let me get into this whole cooking area. Let me see what I can do. And to be honest, nearly a year in lockdown, I've really become quite a master chef. Day in day out, I come up with new things. Obviously my all my family works, and they're classed as essential workers with majority of their jobs that they do. And so I think, what's the best thing for them to come home to? And it's something, not every day, something home cooked and something new, and they absolutely love it because they work so hard. But yeah, it's almost become a hobby now, because you think, okay, I've mastered one thing, what's the next thing that I've struggled with in the past? And I've sort of kept myself busy that way. It's helped me mentally as well. But when I know I can do something well, I want to do it even better, if that makes sense. And me and Claire were
Indeed.
speaking about it today, and I said, even with the whole business side of things, I've told myself, you know what, read an article a day on something related to business or marketing or something I'm interested in, just to keep my brain active. So yeah, apart from cooking, I've been doing a lot of reading as well, and
Well,
putting weight on, which is not great.
well, we will be looking forward for a back to summer party where we can at least meet outdoors
Yeah.
and share a plate. So I will be looking forward for that invite to
Yes,
come in and taste your new experiment with food.
yes.
So in terms of activities now, one of the things which we are on today, I think so. This is the activity professional week, I presume. Is that right, Claire?
Yes, it is. It's Activity Professionals Week, and it's something that I am massively passionate about. So we have all heard and witnessed and seen within the media, the pandemic crisis and how that's hit our care home, our social care, and people that are working on the front line, NHS and across health and social care in those care homes. They are amazing, truly outstanding individuals going above and beyond. And as somebody who has spent many years working within care homes and dementia care and the health and social care industry, I know firsthand how hard it is, but also how rewarding it is as well. And so, there isn't that spotlight shined on activity coordinators as much sometimes as they truly deserve. They are outstanding individuals who, for instance, these are my words, how I felt at the time when I did the role. You almost feel, or I almost felt like I was jack of all trades, master of none, because you have to be so diverse and you have to meet so many different complex needs. You're trying to support everybody, not just the residents within your care home, but staff members as well. You have to make sure that you're engaging with everybody, and you're trying to provide activities to everybody, and you're trying to meet, all different people's preferences, their cultural preferences, their faith, religion, their emotional needs, their physical needs, how to keep them engaged socially, and emotionally. We're looking at creative aspects as well within social care, and how to engage people with things that they are going to enjoy, and things that are also going to enable people to keep their mobility moving forward positively all the times. There's lots of things that activity coordinators do that I just feel that we need to shine the light on them, and just give them a great big clap and just appreciate everything that they do. And let me just give you an example. One carer in a care home, for instance, would probably be assigned to support 7 individuals, as an example. If you've got, say, I don't know, 30, sometimes up to 50 residents within a care setting, you can have, most of the time, have one activity coordinator, and that activity coordinator has to meet everybody's needs every day, and that is a really hard role to facilitate. So I just think that they are fantastic individuals that go above and beyond, and it's nice to shine the light and show our appreciation to them.
Indeed, definitely, and something which we have to do. But at the same times, we'd like to know what can one do to look after their own mental well-being, because one of the things is mental and physical well-being, and this is very common nowadays, because we are having an extent, because when we jumped into the lockdown back in March, April time last year, we thought, yes, few months and we are over. In fact, I was one of those few people who have seen the outcome from the China, saying, okay, 5-6 months maximum we will be out and about. I was speaking to my peers and colleagues and saying, don't worry, it will not last that long. And I remember one of our senior member and one of our GP was saying, Fahad, look, from the history, learn from the history. According to the history book, pandemics, whenever came into our lives, lasted 2 to 3 years minimum. And if we do not take care of it properly, there is a time when it lasted 4.5 years. So we have to be very prepared and look after ourselves, because it is not going that easy. And now 1 year gone, I'm in the same boat with her, saying, yes, you are right, because I can't see how it will disappear in a few months' time. So I'm I'm coming back to my original questions. Can one do to look after their own well-being, physical or mental?
If I
Rigerta.
start this off,
Yeah.
Roberta, and then I come over to you, because I'm so passionate about this. I could talk about it all year. So one of the first things that I would definitely recommend would be, get yourself some paper or a journal and start writing down the things that make you happy, make you smile, things that you're grateful for, things you appreciate. Sometimes that's really nice when we kind of get into our low feelings, our low moods, that we can go, that's a nice go-to, because we can think about, oh yeah, okay, these are the things that make me feel better. And moving on, it's then about thinking about the things that we enjoy in our day to day. So playlists, for instance, music is fantastic. And if you look at the whole lockdown situation over the past year almost, there's been pop-up choirs, there's been singing clubs online, there's been karaoke sessions on Instagram. People have been doing like DJ sets and things like that. One of the things that I would say is create yourself playlists. So if you want some downtime, think about, what can I put in my playlist that's going to make me relaxed and I'm going to feel very chilled, and create a nice relaxing playlist. When I need a pick me up, when I want to feel good about myself, when I want to get that energy and that motivation up, have that feel good playlist that you can go to, because music is fantastic for us mentally and physically. the NHS and multiple kind of healthcare professions do state that there is 5 ways to well-being, and they are connect, be active, give, keep learning, and take notice. And one of the things that myself and Rigerta did a couple of years ago is we actually embarked on a journey to show people how we can do these things and how we can fulfill those 5 ways to well-being. We talk about connecting, which is really difficult during this time because we aren't able to socialise in the normal ways that we would normally do. So it's about maybe setting up like a pen pal between friends or family, maybe looking at emailing friends and family regularly, picking up the phone call, how are you okay, and then doing these kind of Zoom or social media lives with friends and family is also really helpful. And I just think that it's about planning ahead. Don't wait until the day and think, what am I going to do? Because you'll slowly start to lose motivation very quickly, and before you know it, half the day is gone, and it can lead to kind of a low mood. So it's really about, get that journal, start writing the things that you like to do and plan ahead with your activities. And there's so many things that we can do. It's just about being creative and looking at what we can do in our day to day. Rigerta, do you want to add on to that?
I actually do. And I'll add from personal experience. I think routine is so important to mental health and also physical health, because if we're going to bed at 3 a.m. and waking up at 1, 2 in the afternoon or 3, we've missed our breakfast, for example. We've missed that morning fresh air, for example, and we're not getting enough sleep. So I think the most important thing to think throughout this, apart from everything that Claire's covered, is routine. If we could get the great amount of hours of sleep that we need, and we actually have the time to do that, because when we've been rushing around all the time, we haven't had that time. And to eat properly, eat 3 times a day, get our fruits and vegetables in, and get a 20-minute, half an hour workout routine in, or even go for a walk. Read, and if you've got something to prepare for from when lockdown is over, you've accomplished something. It doesn't have to be something massive, but I really, to make it really simple, I think routine, because we've been pushed out of it, in and out so many times because of third lockdown. We need to be in a routine with our mental health and physical health through sleep, eating well, looking after ourselves in different ways, hygiene, for example, keeping on top of things, because once we're out of lockdown, you look back and think, oh, if only I had the time, and we had all the time in the world.
That is something very unique, because this is, and I just like to reflect on that particular point, the time we in past, and I remember it very clearly back in 2019, 17, 18, 19. I always used to say, damn, I haven't got any time. Ya Allah, I haven't got any time. How can we make some time? I remember when we were doing a show in the studio, it was extremely busy. Both you were saying it's really hard to find time for ourselves. And we keep praying that if somehow we can make Friday into a weekday, and weekend, not weekday, weekend. So we will have 3-day weekend, so we can have some downtime. Now we have given plenty of downtime, and I mean it, plenty of downtime, and people do not know what to do with their downtime, because
we also say, Fahad, if only we could make the world stop. It stopped. Everything stopped at one point. So yeah, I do agree with that. We always looked for time, and I think I'll go back to your first thing that you said about blessings. We were blessed with more time in some aspects as well.
And coming back on times, unfortunately, the time for the day has been passed. Wow, the time has gone so quickly. We just have under 2 minutes remaining before the end of the show. So can I ask both of you to give a positive message? Let's start with you, Claire.
So we are in this pandemic together. You are not alone. And there is, this moment where we feel like so many things have been negative and taken away from us. But we have so many things that we can actively have a choice over. So remember, do plan your day and think about things that you can actively do in your day to day that bring meaning and purpose, that are going to bring you that sense of joy, and be creative.
Indeed, indeed. Rigerta?
And to end that, actually, as cliche as it might sound, I think I just want to end on that the world is in your hands at the moment. You have every opportunity to do what you need to do for yourself in order to get yourself on track, whether that's mentally, physically, socially, whatever it be. So just take it and run. That's
Indeed, take it and run, but don't run fast enough, and definitely do not try to catch anything else. But on that note, I must say thank you so much, guys. If you can download Active Genius book, and thank you so much to both Claire and Roberta for joining our show tonight, and giving us positive points. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahad.
Thank you.
And that's all for tonight, guys. Please stay tuned, and we will be back again next week. Till next week, I'm your host Fahad Matin saying Assalamu alaikum.